The Timekeepers Burden, 1963 JFK. I sat in the formal sitting room of the White House, hands folded in my lap. The weight of everything I knew pressed down on me like a heavy shadow, something I couldn't shake no matter how much I tried. It was October 9th, 1963, just 2 days after Jack had signed the Limited Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. The world was still buzzing with the news, but my mind was elsewhere, on the events I knew were coming. Jack walked in, leaning on his ironwood cane, his back still bothering him. He winced slightly as he lowered himself into the chair across from me. I slid a cold Heineken across the table, and he smiled, grateful, before taking a sip. "How did the signing go?" I asked, though my heart wasn't really in it. "Good," Jack replied, setting the bottle down. He started talking about the treaty and what it might mean for the world. I listened, nodding occasionally, but I couldn't focus. My thoughts were elsewhere, on Dallas, on what I knew had already been decided. Jack shifted the conversation, talking about his upcoming events, Amherst, the motorcade to visit cities, and the Secret Service wanted him to take the hardtop. I just kept nodding along, but the tension in the air must have been obvious. He suddenly stopped and looked at me, his sharp eyes narrowing. "Wow, this is a first." "What?" I asked. "The whole time I've known you, Elijah, you've always seemed to know more than anyone else in the room. You see things the rest of us don't. But now, you look lost, like something's on your mind. What's going on?" I let out a small, bitter laugh. "All right," I said, rubbing the back of my neck. "I've been doing this for a long time, Jack. And in all those years, I think I've told maybe 4 people the truth about what I'm really doing." Jack leaned in slightly, curious. "What do you mean?" I sighed. "It's a fantastical tale, so let me just say it all at once. You know I love history, but it's more than that. I have a PhD in history and speak 17 languages. The thing is, my history isn't your history." I paused, trying to find the right words. "From your calendar, I'm from the year 3925. Jack raised an eyebrow, unsure of whether to laugh or take me seriously. "Is this some new book or movie script you're working on?" "No," I said, shaking my head. I pulled a briefcase from beside my chair and opened it, setting down letters and objects in front of him, things that told the story better than I could. "I woke up in Atlantis, around what I could determine to be 11,000 BC. Since then, I've stopped aging and have been tasked with keeping history on track. These," I pointed to the items, "are moments I've been a part of, key moments in time." Jack stared at the Roman coin, the letter from Lincoln, the sketch of me from Da Vinci. His eyes widened as the pieces clicked into place. "Elijah," he said slowly, "are you serious?" I nodded. "I've been doing this for 13,000 years, Jack. And this is the first time I don't know what to do." "What do you mean?" "There are moments in history that can't be changed," I said. "Fixed points, events that have to happen, or else the future falls apart. You've already had one of those moments last year," Jack said softly. "The Cuban Missile Crisis." I looked down at the trinkets. "I told you, I know they would turn." I paused, meeting his eyes. "The other one is on November 22, 1963, in Dallas." Jack stiffened. His voice was quieter when he spoke again. "We just decided that I'm going to Dallas next month." I took a breath. "When the motorcade turns down Elm Street near the Texas School Book Depository, shots ring out. You're in the convertible, and you're hit. They rush you to the hospital, but later they report you passed away." Jack swallowed hard, gripping the bottle in his hand. "And nothing can change that?" I shook my head slowly. "That's just it. It can't change. It's a fixed point. If it doesn't happen, then history will be different. The world of the future will be shattered, and who knows what will be in its place." Jack was silent for a moment, staring at the floor. Then he looked back up at me, a question in his eyes. "Who does it?" I sighed. "That's part of the mystery. Your assassination becomes one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in history. There are more conspiracy theories about your death than almost anything else. Jack frowned. Theories? Like what? I leaned back. Everything you can imagine. Some say it's the mafia getting revenge, others believe it's the Russians or the CIA orchestrating a coup. Some think it's a group of powerful, hidden elites. Some say it's a lone, crazy guy who pulled the trigger on his own. I chuckled. And there are those who say you staged it. That you set the whole thing up and disappeared. Jack let out a small, bitter laugh. Staged it? Why the hell would I do that? I shrugged. That's the thing about your assassination, it's open to endless speculation. But people will never stop talking about it, even centuries from now. Jack stared at me, trying to process what I told him. You've known this the whole time? I stood and started to gather my things and nodded. Yes. So, are you leaving? I glanced at the door. There's really nothing I can do here. I don't want to be around for it. I just had to tell you. I felt you needed to know. I hope you understand. I paused, looking back at him one last time. Goodbye, Jack. Then I left. Jack didn't respond. He just stared into the distance, deep in thought. 2 years later in 1965. In North Carolina, I was living a quiet life, trying to stay away from history. I hadn't been there when it happened. I couldn't bear to see it unfold. One day, as I left the post office, a long package had arrived for me. Inside was Jack's ironwood cane. A simple note was tucked inside, written in handwriting I knew too well. All it said was, I understand. I smiled faintly, running my fingers along the cane. Once again I said goodbye to my friend.